And a very good Monday morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Joe Benigno back with you again. It's the The Pain podcast. It is Monday, Memorial Day, May 26, 2025. The Joe Benigno The Pain podcast brought to you by the Hackensack Brewing Company, by Anita Discount Tire, and, of course, our friends at Manscaped. It is Memorial Day, and before we get into the Knicks saving their season last night, getting themselves back in this series against Indiana, got to talk about Memorial Day. Always very near and dear to my heart because my wonderful father, who was a war hero back in World War II, got the Purple Heart, 9 months as a captive in the German. The Germans had him captive for 9 months before he was finally liberated and all of that. And, he was 19 years old at the time. He survived it all, but it certainly came back to get him later on in life. He passed away at the very young age of 44 in 1967. So we honor all who have died for our country today. We honor all the great people in service now that are out there trying to protect the greatest country in the world. And we certainly thank my wonderful father. God bless him, and God bless America on this Memorial Day. Let's remember what it's all about. All right. What a night last night in Indiana. I tell you, man, when the Knicks were down 20 in this game in the middle of the second quarter, I thought they were going to get run out of the gym, and we were looking at a 4-game sweep here. But it turned out to be anything but that. And I want to really compliment the coach, Tom Thibodeau, who, desperate times call for desperate measures. And that's what last night was. This was a game the Knicks had to win. They lose last night. It's over. They're not coming back from 3-0. Nobody's ever done it in the history of the NBA, and the Knicks weren't going to be the first to do it against this Indiana Pacer team. Thibodeau changed it up last night. He started Mitchell Robinson and had Josh Hart come off the bench, and he went 9 deep in the rotation. You didn't see Campaign play, and he's been horrible, but you saw Dalen Wright, who I didn't even know was on the team, to be very honest with you, who gave him 14 solid minutes. No doubt about it. Landry Shamet also giving him solid minutes off the bench last night. Deuce McBride was tremendous in this basketball game, especially in the second half. And obviously the bottom line on it all was a signature night for Karl Anthony Towns, who goes off for 20 points in the fourth quarter, really took the game over. And that's where, the Knicks came back to win this game. They were, like I said, they were down 20. They were down 10 to start the fourth and came all the way back to win it. Give Thibodeau all kinds of credit. He kept Jalen Brunson, who, was in foul trouble all night, and the officiating, let's be honest, okay? All right? And the Knicks won the game anyway, but the officiating in this series has been ridiculous. Every challenge that there has been, every time that there's a challenge call, whether the Knicks challenge or whether Indiana challenges, Indiana wins it. I think we've seen it 5 or 6 times already in the 3 games. Everyone has gone Indiana's way. And early in the game, and I thought this was going to be a really defining moment in the game, even though it was in the first quarter. I think the Knicks were down 4 or 5 at the time. Karl Anthony Towns goes to the basket, a resounding slam dunk and one. Yes, and it counts. That's what the officials call it. And then Carlisle challenges it. And I couldn't believe they overturned the call in Indiana's favor. You got to be kidding. I couldn't believe it. And that really changed the entire momentum of the game at that point. And Indiana went on a big run to take that 20-point lead at one point in the second quarter. And we saw this a couple of times. We saw this on one of the fouls later on in the game against Brunson. I believe it was Brunson when he got his 5th foul, which to me looked like a complete offensive foul. And again, Thibodeau challenged it, and he lost. Of course he did. This guy, Scott Foster, who has been officiating these games, seeming every Knick game that there's been, has done the Knicks no favors at all. I mean, the officiating in this series, not just this series, even the Boston series, has been horrible. It's gone against the Knicks every time, but every time that I believe it's been 6 challenges, not 100% sure, 6 challenges in this series against the Pacers. Indiana's won every one. Every freaking one has gone their way. Just unbelievable. No other way to say it. Unbelievable. But unbelievable is the way the Knicks came back to pull this freaking game out. I mean, what can you say? I mean, it's just amazing. Just a tremendous win. didn't see this coming. And, again, give Thibodeau credit for going off script here, and playing other guys, and they all contributed. The Knicks defense was tremendous. I mean, Brunson was on the bench for long stretches. You didn't see Brunson come back in the game in the fourth quarter till there was under 2 minutes left. And Brunson hit a big basket, a big floater in the lane that gave the Knicks the lead for good. I think that made it 100-98 at that point in the game. And how about here's another thing, not talked about enough, at least that I've seen. How about the Knicks on the free throw line in this game? They were 27 for 30 from the line. I believe they made their last, because this thing is we're getting a little glitchy because it's stopping a little bit every now and then, but we're moving forward. So, well, occasionally as I'm talking to my wife, you can be like, see what I mean? It's like stopping and then going again. So it's been a little, first time that's happened, but that's all right. We'll live with it. We're moving. The Knicks made their free throws last night, 27 out of 30 from the line. I believe they were 14 for 14 in the fourth quarter of the game. And that, look, that was a major factor, man. How many big free throws down the line? And how about down the stretch of this game, Brunson made a couple. Brunson himself, even though he shot poorly, I think he was 6 of 18 from the field. I believe Brunson was 6 of 18 from the field. It is. That's why I'm going back. I believe Brunson was 6 of 18 from the field. We're having a little glitch here. That's why I'm like resetting what I'm saying. Brunson was 6 of 18 from the field, but he was 10 of 10 from the foul line. He wound up with 23 points. Yeah, and how about Josh Hart? He comes off the bench, and how many monsters? He wound up with 10 rebounds. He had some big boy rebounds in the fourth quarter. How about that one rebound when he came flying in late in the fourth quarter? Looked like he got slammed to the floor, and just a huge play. Again, he came back. He got fouled on that play, made 2 big foul shots. Just unbelievable. I mean, contributions all the way up and down the line. I mean, I don't know what else to say. And obviously a signature game for Karl-Anthony Towns. He was hitting threes. He was taking the ball to the basket. He had that big slam dunk and one in the fourth quarter. I mean, unbelievable. And the Knicks ended a 9-game losing streak at the old, well, now they call it Gainsbridge Fieldhouse or whatever the hell they call it. It used to be Canseco, going all the way back to, when they lost Game 5 they lost 3, not Game 5, but they actually lost, Game 5. They lost 3 games in that Fieldhouse back in the 2000 Eastern Conference Finals, and had lost 9 straight in that building until yesterday. So the Knicks stay alive. I mean, what? And how do you figure it? Whatever happened to the home court advantage in basketball? The Knicks in this playoff run, they're 3-5 at home, and they're 6-1 on the road, and 3 times now, twice in Boston and once last night in Indiana, have come back from 20-point deficits to win the basketball game on the road. Unbelievable! It's really unbelievable. I mean, when you think about it. But what a tremendous! I mean, just like I said, I'm thinking it's over. They're going to get swept. And that's the end of it in a very unglorious way. And that was not the case last night. They played big-time defense. Again, I want to give big props. Karl-Anthony Towns, Deuce McBride, Shamet and Wright coming off the bench. They, gave them big moments in this game. Josh Hart coming off the bench to make big plays. Again, I think he wound up with 8 points. I think he was 6 of 6 from the foul line. 8 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. Coming off the bench in this game. And how about this? Again, this just shows what a team player Josh Hart is. I love Josh Hart. I really do. He's the heart and soul of this basketball team. There's no question about it. I love him. And he made the statement, look, if, he talks about unselfish play and all that. So, if Thibodeau's asking him to come off the bench in this game, well, hey, I got to do it because this, I'm always preaching, team and all this. So how can I not do that? How can I be upset about it? And when he did play, he was magnificent. So just one thing about this team, and I don't know if they're going to go on to win an NBA title. They're still probably not winning this series. They're still behind the 8 ball, down 2-1. No doubt. I mean, all they've really accomplished to this point is we know one thing, that they're coming back to the Garden for a Game 5, and that exactly has not been a wonderful place for them, as we know. But, look, you can't count them out. And they played so well on the road. You got to give them a shot now, to at least even this series on Tuesday night. Unbelievable. It really is. And you know what? And I got to give credit, and it really is amazing what Thibodeau did in the biggest game of the year. Like I said, desperate times call for desperate measures, and give him credit for mixing it up, starting Robinson, bringing those guys off the bench, keeping Campaign, on the bench because he stinks. I mean, I don't know why he was, even getting any playing time. I mean, just dribbling the ball to nowhere when he comes in the game, and being able to overcome the foul trouble of Brunson and the foul trouble of Karl Anthony Towns, who had 4 fouls. I think he eventually got his 5th foul in the 4th quarter, but he never fouled out of the game. And neither did Brunson because he sat for so much of the 4th, even though he came on and made that big basket, big free throws down the stretch. Like I said, Brunson wound up with 23, shot terribly, but 10 of 10 from the foul line. And like I said, that was huge in this game, 27 of 30 from the free throw line for the Knicks. So just a terrific win. You talk about a team. When we look back at this game, and who knows, if somehow they ever came back to win this series, we'll look at this game as the turning point for sure, and we'll look at it as the Karl Anthony Towns game. But it's funny watching some stuff this morning, and somebody asked one of the people, are you going to call this the Karl Anthony Towns game? And they said, well, maybe if the Knicks come back to win the series. But remember this: how much ballyhoo, even to this day, has been given to the John Starks dunk in Game 2 of the '93 Eastern Conference Finals against the Bulls, right? That dunk over Jordan, which everybody goes delirious about, like this great moment in Knick history. And, of course, then they lost the next 4 games of that playoff and lost the series. And that dunk is still being celebrated, even though it happened in a series that what Knicks wound up losing. And, of course, that was the series of the Charles Smith Memorial and all of that. So even if the Knicks lose this series, we'll still probably look at this game by Towns and, give him credit for, at least keeping the Knicks afloat for another day and keeping them in this series. Because obviously, again, had they lost last night, down 3-0, it's all over. There's no question about it. But terrific win, and we'll see what happens from here on. But again, give Thibodeau a lot of credit for what he did, really shaking it up last night when the season was certainly on the line. And I got to give credit to this. I want to go back to the broadcast team of Kevin Harlan, this clown, Stan Van Gundy, and Reggie Miller. Why is Van Gundy there? Reggie Miller's actually, I got to give Reggie Miller credit. You say whatever you want. I know Reggie Miller has been one of the great villains in the history of the Knicks and all of that. But I think he likes the Knicks. And I've said this a million times. Reggie Miller, his career was made by the Knicks. His career was made in Madison Square Garden. Let's be honest about it. That turned him into the guy that he, the great clutch player that he was in his career. He never won a title. He really is one of the great three-point shooters of all time and one of the great clutch three-point shooters of all time. And his career was really made by the Knicks. And go back to the end of the first half. The Knicks were down 20. They cut it to 13. And even though they're still down 13 in the game, they kept it at least where they weren't down 30 at halftime, And they made a little run at the end of the half to cut it to 13. And Reggie Miller made a comment. And I kind of, at the time, we're still down 13. I don't feel good about this and all of that. But he made a comment at that point saying, hey, the Knicks got themselves back in this game. Let's not count them out at this point, the way that they ended the first half. And I thought that was very telling by Reggie Miller. So I give him credit, man. I mean, he has been very fair in this series. Obviously it's his old team. Obviously Reggie Miller is the greatest Indiana Pacer of all time, in all due respect to the guys that played in the ABA, Mel Daniels and Roger Brown and guys like that who actually won ABA championships. They actually won 3 in the old ABA. It's funny. The last time the Knicks and Pacers have both won championships in the last time in 1973. Of course, Indiana in the ABA and the Knicks in the NBA. So, for what that's worth. But, give Reggie Miller credit for that, making that statement. Now, on the other hand, this Van Gundy has just been a complete buffoon. He made a comment last night that kind of, I'd like to hear maybe I didn't hear it right, Okay? Maybe I didn't hear it right. I don't know. But it sounded like he said that the Knicks had the worst starting five in the playoffs. I think I heard him say that. Did he say? I mean, again, I'd have to go back to the tape. Maybe somebody could, clarify it for me or something. Send it to the Facebook stuff to my daughter or whatever, because it ain't coming to me. So, but I thought he said the Knicks had the worst starting five in the playoffs. Really? Well, the Knicks, there's 4 teams playing basketball left in the NBA right now, and the Knicks are one of them. Really? So they had the worst starting five, but they knocked off the Pistons. They knocked off the defending champion Celtics, and they've actually got themselves back in this series, at least with a pulse last night against Indiana. And this guy, okay, Van Gundy, I don't know what his gripe is with the Knicks and the Knicks fans. I don't know. Why? Because he's jealous? Because his brother actually was a very good coach that actually took the Knicks to the finals? Is that the problem? Is he down on the Knicks because of the way his brother left? And brother, because of Dolan? Is that the answer? But he's been taking shots at the Knicks the whole time. Why the hell is this little troll, Stan Van Gundy, right, who wasn't a very good head coach anyway, why is this guy, okay, why is he there? When TNT was doing the games earlier in the playoffs, I don't think Van Gundy, wasn't it just Harlan and Miller? So why the hell now that we're in the conference finals do we need this guy being there as well? So Reggie Miller, man, I've been happy. I'll tell you, man, I like Reggie Miller. I like him. I have great respect for him. He was a great player. And like I said, the battles with the Knicks in the old days are, classic stuff. And I give him credit, for telling it like it, calling the shots the right way when he could be very pro Indiana. But please, can we get this freaking troll Van Gundy the hell out? Really? What a disgrace. Stan Van Gundy has been almost as big a disgrace as the officiating in this series has been. Really. Almost. Very close. Very, very close. All right. Benigno, the Yoda Pain podcast. So we'll see what happens tomorrow night. But the Knicks with a pulse, now back in the series, 2-1. Indiana leading Game 4 tomorrow night in Indiana. And now we know we got a Game 5 back at the Garden on, I guess that's Thursday night at the Garden. All right. Now let's get to my sponsors. We'll let you know when the next live podcast will be at the Hackensack Brewing Company sometime in July, sometime when the weather finally really gets down and dirty and good for good in the summer. We'll let you know when that is. So we'll let you know as soon as I know, but it's probably sometime in July. Now, if you need work done on your car, you know where to go. Go to Anita Discount Tire. Go see my son Johnny. Go see his great boss Harry. Whatever you need. Your car inspected. You need tires. Whatever the work you need on your car, that's the place to go. Rivervale, New Jersey, Westwood Avenue. Tell them Joe B sent you, and they will take care of you. They do a great job there, no doubt about it. And, of course, our friends at Manscaped, they'll be back with us again at the end of the summer. We thank them for all the support. And, again, guys, you know the deal, man. You want to have that look of extra inches, you know the place to go, and that is Manscaped, without a doubt. Now, I just want to throw something out there for people that don't notice, and I want to, before I forget to mention it, we'll get to the Mets and the Dodgers series, with the Mets taking 2 out of 3 against L.A. But programming note, at this coming Saturday, I will start my new time slot on the Fan on Saturday. I'll be on from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. So it's a new time slot. Chris McMonagle is going to be taking over my old 10 to 1 slot. I think he's actually on from 9 to 1. So I'll be on from 5 a.m. To 9 a.m. And should be interesting. At least I'll be able to get the tee times, and I can play golf on Saturday now. So that actually works out. Not too bad. And the fact that I'm doing, if I had to go in, I probably would not do these hours. I wouldn't be doing them. But the fact that I can basically get up and roll right onto the couch, I could do it from bed if I wanted to, but rolling, right into the recliner makes all the difference. So starting on Saturday, 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. on the Fan, Chris McMonagle will be on from the 9 to 1 slot on Saturdays. All right. Terrific weekend for the Mets. They take 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. Really could have easily swept the series. That crazy game on Friday night with the rain delay, 13 innings. They had all kinds of chances to score in the extra innings, couldn't do it. after they came back to tie the game with 3 runs in the bottom of the ninth inning and all of that. So it turned out to be a very, very tough loss. But they bounced back with 2 great wins. David Peterson, brilliant on Saturday night, 7 2/3 innings. And then you got the 4-out save from Diaz, who was absolutely dominant in that game. You got the big hit from Juan Soto, the bases clearing double that just missed a grand slam. Finally, he did something in the win, the 5-2 win on Saturday night. And then last night, Senga, who really didn't have his great stuff, hanging in there, battling, went 5 1/3, winds up getting the win. The bullpen, magnificent. Senga gives up a leadoff home run to Ohtani. He hits this freaking bomb to start the game, and the Dodgers don't score again. And the Mets really did a job. Look, they handled Ohtani really well in this series. David Peterson struck him out 3 times on Saturday night. After hitting the home run, Senga struck him out. Again, he didn't get another hit in the game after that. The Dodgers didn't score another run. Senga's tough. Well, I love Senga, man. He is a tough guy. He's a guy, I don't even think he wasn't even throwing the ghost fork last night that much. I was in and out of the game because of the Knicks game. Only going there doing commercials at the Knicks game and halftime and all. But he wasn't even throwing the ghost fork that much. And he gutted out 5 1/3 innings, only gave up one run, and then the bullpen came in and did the job. Max Kranick did a great job, had 2 big innings for him. And Reed Garrett got the save last night. Diaz was unavailable. Garrett comes in, closes it out in the top of the ninth inning. And the Mets, they take 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers here. They get back to 11 games over 500. They're 19-6 at home. Got the best record in baseball at home so far this year. Citi Field has become a real chamber of horrors for the opposition. So really solid weekend. But they were down 1-0, and then give Soto credit for this. He hits a ground ball to short with 2 out, nobody on. That kind of gets booted. He winds up beating it out, on the play, and that set up Pete Alonso on the first pitch. Hits his first home run in a long time. Hit a bomb into the second deck at Citi Field to give the Mets a 2-1 lead. His 10th home run of the year. Turned out to be all the Mets would need in this baseball game. They scored 1 more run on a ground out, RBI ground out by Soto, and that's all they needed. And they win it 3-1. Great relief work, great work by Senga, the big home run by Pete, and they take 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. They're back to 11 games over 500. Now, they're 2 games behind Philly in the division. Philly had a 9-game winning streak ended yesterday, so they've been red hot. That ended yesterday, so the Mets are only 2 games behind them, although the Mets right now are in a prime wild card position. But, I'd like to win this division. You don't want to be playing in that 2 out of 3 miniseries again in the first round. That is an extreme crapshoot, as we all know. But long way to go, and we'll take it. I think every Met fan would sign for 11 games over 500 at this point in the season on Memorial Day weekend, especially with the way Soto has, really hasn't gotten the job done to this point. The Mets play the White Sox now, the Pope's team, right? Pope Leo the 14th, that's his team. He's supposedly a big White Sox. He went to one White Sox game, and they're giving murals of him in Chicago now, right? I think they got a freaking statue outside already for the Pope at whatever they call it now, the new Comiskey Park, whatever they call it in Chicago with the Cubs. Sorry, White Sox fans, where the White Sox play. But anyway, they played 3 with the White Sox. Late afternoon game today, 4 o'clock. Clay Holmes, who really has pitched real well. The Mets pitching has been unbelievable. You say whatever you want. Give David Stearns credit. As much as maybe I'm not the biggest fan of his, but, maybe it's that Harvard education. How's things at Harvard these days? Anyway, we'll get into that. But, anyway. But give him credit, man. I mean, the job he's done with I even have confidence. Frankie Montas made a rehab start last night in Brooklyn. I think it was yesterday in Brooklyn. I think he stinks. But even Frankie Montas, with the way that these guys come here, and Hefner and Stearns, develop these pitches, I got to believe maybe Montas is actually going to be good. Whoever thought David Peterson was going to turn into the pitcher he's turned into? Let's be honest about it. I mean, right now, when Peterson or Senga are on the mound, I feel good we're going to win the game. I got to tell you. And how about Clay Holmes? How good has he been? Clay Holmes has been tremendous. This guy was a relief pitcher for the Yankees. And he's now a bona fide starter for the Mets. I mean, you got to love it. I still don't have any faith in Tyler McGill. He pitched pretty well last time out, although he only basically gave you 4 solid innings, struck out a lot of guys. But, you got to have confidence. I mean, they're doing it. Sean Manaea, we haven't seen him all year, right? You got to give Stearns credit. Griffin Canning, who was absolutely a disaster last year for the Angels. He had an ERA that, was like through the moon, right? Through the roof. And this guy's been a solid pitcher for the Mets this year. And again, he wasn't very good the other day. He didn't get out of the third inning against the Dodgers. But still, I didn't even know who this guy was. And he's done the job. Yeah, and the Mets have really been carried by the pitching. Let's be honest. I mean, the offense has been very up and down. Soto has been terrible. Let's be honest about it. They haven't hit with runners in scoring position at all. Their defense has been very shaky at times. Although, how about the play that Tyrone Taylor made last night to throw out Mookie Betts at the plate? I mean, how good is Tyrone Taylor? Let's see. If you're a Met fan, you see this because you're watching this guy every day. He is one of the most underrated players, not only on his team, but in baseball. How many big hits? I tell you, I got more confidence that he's going to get a big hit with runners in scoring position than I do Soto. Right? He's unbelievable. And defensively, come on. That play last night was one of the biggest plays of the game. He makes that play on a short fly ball to center field on the run, turns around, and throws Betts out at the plate. Tyrone Taylor, man, you talk about an underrated, unsung player, unsung guy on this Met team. That's him. He really had been. To me, he's the everyday center fielder. And I'm going to tell you this too. And we saw Luis Torrens play again for the second straight day last night. To me, he's the starting catcher. Right now, he's better defensively than Alvarez. I think he's a better hitter too. Right? I think he is. I'd go with him. He got 2 big hits in the game in the Saturday night game. He's money throwing runners out. He's about as good as anybody in baseball throwing runners out. I would play him. If right now, if you're playing, if you have 7 games, you're playing every day during the week, a 7 game week, right? Every day during that a specific week. I got to see Torrens play at least 4 out of 7. He's not playing every day. You got to play the other guy a couple times when you're talking about the catcher. But right now, to me, Torrens is the number 1 catcher, not Alvarez. He's better. And Tyrone Taylor has been magnificent. He really has been magnificent. So, you're a Met fan right now. You got to be thrilled. The bullpen has been very good. Bob is on. I know he gave it up in the 13th inning the other day, but for the most part, he's been terrific. And Diaz, you say whatever you want about Diaz. He's 11 out of 11 so far in save opportunities. Hasn't blown a save all year, as I knock on wood to this point. I'm sure he will at some point, but let's hope it's not in a really big spot somewhere. We'll really need it. But whatever. Diaz is one of the best closers in baseball. Let's be honest about it. And you got to say that. And he's one of the best closers the Mets ever had. It's really amazing. The all-time Mets save list. John Franco's number 1, right, with 200, whatever it is. The number 2 guy is actually Armando Benitez. For all the beatdown that we gave Armando Benitez over the years, he's second on the Mets all-time save list. I think he's got 160. And the next guy is now Diaz, who's like 130 or something like that. I love Diaz. In fact, he might be the next. I got all these Met, the Met T-shirts. I got a lot of them, right? As far as the guys I have that are on the team now, I have Lindor, Alonso, and McNeil. The next guy I might get is Diaz. I'm a big fan. I love Diaz. And the other night with that 4-out save against the Dodgers, man, he was dominant. He blew away Mookie Betts. He blew away Freddie Freeman. He really looked good. And we look back at that trade now, and everybody made a big deal, when Brody Van Wagenen made that trade where he traded at the time the Mets' number 1 prospect Kelenic, who's really never developed into anything. I think he's on the Braves now, right? Jared Kelenic, right? Is that his name, right? He really has. And remember, they traded him to who was it? Seattle, I guess it was Seattle, for Diaz and Robbie Cano. And everybody went crazy because they took Cano's contract on, ridiculous contract. Why would they make that trade? Well, look at that trade now. If you're looking at that trade, basically Kelenic for Diaz, how good a trade has that turned out to be for the Mets? Nobody talks about that. That's turned out to be one of the best trades the Mets ever made, right? That was like Keith Hernandez for Neil Allen and Rick Ombie, almost. That's how good a trade it was. Gary Carter for Hubie Brooks and Floyd Yeomans, right? I mean, that's how good a trade. Unbelievable. So, look, what a Lindor trade, which has really turned out to be a great trade for the Mets now, too. But we don't talk enough about the Diaz trade. That's turned out to be a great trade for the Mets. I love Diaz. He's one of the dominant closers in baseball. And he's on his way, man. If the Mets ever win a World Series with him, right, we'll look at him maybe as the greatest Met closer of all time. So, in all due respect to Jesse Orosco, Tug McGraw, and the guys who, the closers we've had that actually won the World Series for us, Roger McDowell, those guys. And we love Franco, who should be in Hall. He'll get Billy Wagner's in the Hall of Fame. Speaking of Met closers, if Billy Wagner's in the Hall of Fame, certainly John Franco should be. But anyway, that's for another day. But great night for me anyway as a New York sports fan. My basketball team stays alive. Now back in the series. Let's hope they can find a way to win yet another road game tomorrow in Game 4. Now trail 2-1 to Indiana. And the Mets take 2 out of 3 from the hated Dodgers at Citi Field. They'll play them in L.A. next week. The Yankees go to Dodger Stadium this weekend as well. The Yankees took 2 out of 3 in Colorado, and now they'll play the Angels this week, 3, and then they go to play the Dodgers after that out in L.A. So interesting week in the baseball world. And I said the Mets open up a 3-game series, 4:05 start today. Clay Holmes on the mound against the Chicago White Sox. Everybody, enjoy your Memorial Day. Remember what this day is all about. Remember all the veterans and all the people that gave their life for their country. And thank you, Dad, for everything you did. You made me the person I am. I love you, and we miss you. It's been a long, long time. But God bless him, and God bless America. All the love, everybody. We will talk to you on Friday, hopefully, somehow. Yeah. Is it possible the Knicks could be ahead 3-2 in the series by the next time I talk to you? Probably not. I think we'll take them being down 3-2 in the series at that point. But let's see what happens. At least we're still playing basketball. We know we're coming back to the Garden. Again, everybody, enjoy your Memorial Day and have a great week. We'll talk to you on Friday. Again, God bless America and all the love.